C. Mining School of Biomedical Engineering at Cornell. So my name is Marjolein van der Meulen, and I'm the director of biomedical engineering. And I want to welcome you to this discussion. And it'd be nice if I was welcoming everyone to Cornell, but it sounds like some of you still need to decide. And so I just wanted to give you a little bit of context on biomedical engineering and engineering before we get into the specifics of the major and the requirements and things like that, the academic program. So we're all coming out of a weird time right now. The last 2 years have been quite strange and the world has changed a lot. But one of the things that has come out of the current pandemic, I think, is an understanding of the relevance of biomedical engineering at this unusual time. So one can think about vaccine development, respirator design, modeling, infection growth curves, and also just the epidemiology of disease. And all of these are things that touch on biomedical engineering. And so I feel like it's never has the value of this field been more evident than in the last couple of years, for better, for worse. And again, we would prefer not to be in this situation, but at the same time, biomedical engineers are making a really big difference in how we adapt and how we come out of this. So we're going to give you a bunch of information on biomedical engineering and what it would mean to be a biomedical engineering major at Cornell. But I want to give you a little of context on Cornell engineering first, and then a little bit about the big picture before Steve Ideate kicks off the specifics of the major. So engineering has a really deep history at Cornell. It was one of the schools when the university was founded in 1865. So the two of the engineering departments date back to that time. Now, biomedical engineering, on the other hand, is one of the newest department in the college, but engineering was part of the founding of the university. And actually, when Cornell started, it was seen as too practical, and engineering was part of the practical side, engineering and agriculture, when the university was founded. One of the things that makes me proud of being at Cornell is that Cornell was actually co-ed and integrated at the start of its founding. And so it's been that way for its whole history, which is unusual for many universities, in fact. And then the college has a really broad range of specialties. And so there's things you probably may be more familiar with, like mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, but then we also have an applied engineering physics. And then we have, again, biomedical engineering. We have systems engineering. So there's some things that are less familiar and that are smaller departments. So we've got a real range from very large to small, and the spectrum of coursework that goes with it in between. And then one last thing I want to say about the College of Engineering is we're unusual for a top school in that we have gender parity, and so very few of the top engineering schools have that. So we're 50% male and female right now, which is a really unique position to be in. And I think Steve will talk a little bit more about the biomedical engineering major, where we're even beyond that. But nonetheless, it's something that's very important, I think, as we think about the value of engineering in the future and producing enough engineers for the workforce that we need, and we need to bring everybody to that workforce. So then I want to say a couple of things about biomedical engineering. As I've alluded to, we're the youngest department in the college. We were founded in 2004. And the major has only been around, though we were founded as a graduate-only department, and then the major has been around since 2015. We started with a small group of 19 students in the first class, and then we've increased in size since then, and now we're on average around in the 50s, sort of. And I think there's still going to be additional growth because, again, we're relatively new, and we did some things to try to keep our growth small when we started. But so we've been coming up in that sense. So we may be the youngest department, but we have moved up quickly in the rankings, and we're currently ranked number 12 in the country, which is pretty good for a major that's been around for only a handful of years, and that's only we've graduated fewer than 5 classes, and so we're quite proud of how we're doing in that regard. And we span the life sciences and engineering, but it's really important to realize that first and foremost, we are engineers. And so we build, we analyze, we design objects and processes like all engineers do. It's just in our case, we're looking at the life sciences. And so where we're doing our application is unlike many of the other majors, although we touch really across all the majors in the College of Engineering. So I think I want to just stop with that then. So I don't know if there's any big picture questions you have, but otherwise I'm going to hand it off to Steve, who is the Director of Undergrad Studies, and he's going to talk more specifically about what it means to be a biomedical engineering major and what the requirements are, and what your program of study would look like if you were when you come to Cornell and if you're a BME major. So thank you for letting me give the introduction. And again, I apologize that we're having some difficulty. It looks like we've had at least one other person join us. And so with that, I'm going to hand it off to Steve.
All right.
Unless are there any pressing big picture questions, I guess.
Yeah, feel free to unmute and ask anything.
Go ahead, Steve.
Okay. Yeah, so if not, I'd like to welcome everyone. So biomedical engineering, you're at the beginning of a really exciting journey. This is going to be challenging and rewarding and exciting all at once. And so let me just tell you a little bit about our program. As Marilyn alluded to, we really are at the intersection of engineering and the physical sciences, and in particular applied to human health, right? So first and foremost, we are engineers, and so we, very much are, would like to be able to describe biological processes and diseases in terms of equations, and be able to model them and be able to engineer new solutions for health problems. So, we recognize that the body itself is a complex system, integrated system that contains, electrical, chemical, biomechanical, and many other interactions. And as an engineer, we really seek to be able to quantify, to measure, and then to be able to use that information to design the healthcare of the future. So if we kind of look at our sort of the big picture view of our curriculum, we have a sort of multifaceted approach. We do want to motivate everything that we teach you with applications in mind. And we have a very much a multi-scale perspective. We think it's important to be able to understand biological processes and disease all the way from the molecular scale to, cells, tissues, and the human body. And so our curriculum is really designed to also include really important experiences that you can get from really engaging with real-world problems, and ultimately we want to be able to engineer this the future of healthcare. So like I mentioned, the body itself is a complex system, but there are certain mathematical ways that we can think about not just the human body, but also sort of man-made technologies that we develop as well. And so you'll be able to, as you go through our program, get the framework that will allow you to understand and manipulate and design various therapies and systems to address disease. So if you look at our curriculum, we basically start you off. Let me see if I can get this out of the way. Yep. Yeah, so we start you off, you basically cover a core engineering curriculum, which is mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology. And then we introduce you to these, we call these cornerstone courses, where we introduce you to the fundamentals of biomedical engineering. And really our goal here is we want to put the applications up front. And so you get to, in each of the cornerstones, get a flavor for what it would be like to be an engineer in 4 specific concentrations, which I'll talk about coming up. And then you basically, we have a series of courses that essentially all our core courses that all our engineers take, students in our major. And there are also these specific concentration courses, depending on which concentration you end up choosing, that you will take. And all of this is kind of heading towards the final design experiences that you will have, where you'll get to put everything into practice. Students who go through each of the concentrations will have their different backgrounds and expertise, and we want to actually bring all of that together and get you to work together in teams to have a design experience working on real world problems. So like I said, we want to stress this multi-scale understanding of biological systems in the human body. And our approach is really, we want to give you the skills to be able to address open-ended problems and to also be able to integrate that with the healthcare system, and to be able to understand how technology can make an impact, and to be able to translate those technologies. So, so these are our concentrations. We have 4 different concentrations. We have molecular, cellular, and systems engineering, or MCSE, biomedical imaging and instrumentation, or BMII, biomaterials and drug delivery, BMDD, and biomechanics and mechanobiology, or BMMB. So let's take a look at each of these different concentrations. So in MCSE, you'll be trained on how to utilize data science principles and simulations to understand molecular processes. And these are processes that essentially control normal processes, normal physiological behavior, but also you'll be able to understand how things can go wrong, which lead to diseases. And then this concentration also looks at how to engineer from the molecular scale up various molecules to be able to essentially track and alter cell behavior. And this involves often the development of new kinds of systems that we need to engineer to study particular facets of physiological behavior and disease, and allow us to design and test therapies as well. And so ultimately, where this could lead is an ability to be able to customize treatments to individual patients, so-called precision medicine. So in BMDD, so this is about essentially understanding how various materials could be used to enhance the delivery of drugs. And so our goal here is to be able to kind of work, that's doing some 3D printing there that you can see. I didn't realize that was going to be so loud. Okay, so there we go. Let me pause that. So we engineer not just sort of the drugs themselves, but what are good ways to get those drugs to interact with the host, so that they could be more effective and be more efficient in treating diseases. Biomedical imaging and instrumentation. I'm actually in this field and in this concentration, and our goal really is to be able to visualize biological processes and be able to detect where things go wrong at an early stage. And the earlier you can diagnose diseases, the better. And so we design and develop tools to essentially see into cells and be able to monitor biological processes. And we aim to do this at different spatial scales as well. And so we have faculty who work on, seeing everything from subcellular scales all the way up to, the brain, and from optical imaging to MRI. So the 4th concentration area, biomechanics and mechanobiology. So this is about, traditional biomechanics might be about bulk tissue or bone mechanical properties, and how our knowledge of that could be used to design engineered new treatments. But we also, in this concentration, we seek to look at the role and how mechanical properties influence biological behavior on a cellular scale as well, and a subcellular scale. And so the ability to be able to connect between mechanical interactions and factors at the micro scale and the macro scale is something that we will be emphasizing as well in this track. I did mention that we are very much keen about getting you guys connected to the real world, and so so there'll be a lot of opportunities, if you like, from doing research in faculty labs, to to be part of project teams. For instance, we have a lot of educational and outreach activities, and often the BMES Society is kind of like in the center of all of these things. So that's a really important part of our program. We have an experiential learning seminar where you will basically be able to reflect on the role of a biomedical engineer in society and healthcare, right? So that's also a really important part of what we train you to do. And then we get you to work in teams, and so as you go through the different concentrations, each of you will build up this complementary expertise. And just like in the real world, where we have teams of people working together to sort of combine your expertise, we have this design experience that you'll essentially get problems that have been posed to us from a clinical setting, from industry, and then some other interesting questions that the students themselves come up with and decide, let's try and engineer something to address this this healthcare problem. And that's a really exciting way to put everything into practice, and it kind of gives you a kind of an impression as to how the real world operates before you actually graduate and actually go out into the real world. So yeah, I think maybe I'll skip this in the interest of time. So with this design showcase, we often have the students then present their designs, and we invite people from industry. And this is a fantastic way to network and make connections. There's a design showcase that we have that you'll have an opportunity to basically show off all the cool things that you've been doing together. So I want to also mention that there are many different paths that students can take through our major. We have pre-health tracks that many students take, study abroad. There is an honors thesis that you can sign up for in your final year. And we also do have an early MEng program where you can, in your final semester, start doing an MEng program, and you have one more semester after your 4 years. So yep, so those are the many different pathways that people can take through our major. And so if those of you who kind of interested, Marilyn already mentioned this, we do have a very good representation of female students in our program. And this is kind of in contrast to a lot of engineering disciplines which tend to be dominated by males. But we're very proud that we've got so many females in our program as well. So where do our graduates go? So you can see here, it's probably about 50% will go off to industry, and just under 50% will go to graduate school. And so these are some numbers from our previous graduates. As Marilyn mentioned, we are ranked number 12. So this is exciting. We've been over the years watching this come up as well. And that's been exciting to see. And a lot of this is also because we have great students like yourselves. So I think I'll skip this. I do want to mention the Biomedical Engineering Society. And this is a really, we have an undergraduate chapter and a graduate chapter. And this is a good way to connect with the community and then, be aware of all of the things that are kind of going on that you can get involved with. This is a slide from BME debut. It's one of our project teams. We also have iGEM. Yeah, we can talk more about that if you have questions. So, okay, that's the next slide. So as you can see here, it's not just all hard work. We do like to have a little bit of fun along the way as well. So let me stop there and we can open it up to some questions.
Okay, so
I have a question.
Oh, you can go ahead. You can go ahead.
All right, thank you. My question is, I do remember seeing that that you guys did mention about like having like some sort of lab positions in the undergraduate program. My question is, do PIs typically let like freshmen into these programs, or do you typically have to wait till I guess like your sophomore year to join these labs?
Yeah, so I think this is very much lab specific. In the past, I can speak for my group, this year has been the first year that I've taken freshmen in the group. Partly because when you first come to Cornell as a freshman, you, in some sense, need the space to adjust from high school to university, right? And also the other part of it is once you've got some coursework under your belt, then you naturally can go into a lab and be able to do more as well, right? That being said, I like a lot of other faculty are kind of mainly looking for students who are excited about what we do, right? And so we can train you, right? I would say that if you are getting practical experience in a research lab, that provides additional motivation and makes your coursework easier as well, right? So I think, yeah, there are a lot of groups, a lot of freshmen who do end up signing up for research in faculty labs. Anyone else can chime in as well.
Just add one thing to Steve's answer, which is I personally, I love having students for more than 1 year. So it's getting some depth in the lab. And so starting freshman year, starting sophomore year, you actually get to, develop some skills. And then by your senior year, you can do an honors thesis or you just have your own project. And so I think the idea of starting early is a really great one. And people come in with a variety of backgrounds. And so joining a lab early but you also, again, the project teams take freshmen as well. I hope the student panel, I see Stephanie nodding a little bit. So I think you guys can address some of this.
Yeah, I joined a lab as a freshman and then I stayed in that lab and I completed my honors thesis with it, exactly like she was just saying. So it definitely happens. It's definitely possible. And I came to Cornell without any prior research experience. So I think it was mostly like I got in on passion, for lack of a better word, it was like passion and hard work and just displaying that to the PI whose lab I ultimately joined.
Just for the sake of time, because we are a little bit running behind, I wanted to make sure we have time for the participants to ask questions of the students that have so graciously joined us this evening. We have some juniors, some seniors, and alum. And I think maybe just we'll go around real quick and you can just say what got you into BME and maybe one piece of advice that you have for the students that are out there who are looking to join BME as a major. So Jonathan, would you like to start out?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm a senior in BME and I'm currently in the MCSE concentration. So what got me into BME was I really like the analytical way of thinking about these biological systems. And I always knew that I wanted to do sort of biology, but I think biomedical engineering took it a further step for me. So I really like that aspect. And a piece of advice I would have to say is it is extremely helpful to collaborate with your peers. I think one thing about the BME major is that it has a lot of breadth to it. And so you may be good at some things and not so good at other things. I think sort of having people that you like go to really fleshes out sort of like your learning.
Thank you. Jessica, you're next.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, first of all, and sorry again about the delay, but we're so excited that you're here and that you are coming to Cornell or considering Cornell. I am currently a junior in the BME department, and I'm concentrating in the instrumentation and imaging kind of area. So that has been super awesome for me. I've always been a relatively quantitative person as well, and I also loved healthcare and medicine. And I was drawn to the idea of being a doctor, but I knew that for me, I was leaning a little bit more towards the kind of being behind the door, building things, making things to better healthcare. And that led me to BME here, and it has been a really incredible experience thus far. And I think my advice to everyone would be to keep your mind open. I know that for me, I came in thinking that I wanted to do one thing and one thing only, and I was in my fall semester, my freshman year, and everything changed. And that's a little bit of a shock, but if you go in with an open mind, it is really easy to kind of embrace all the information you're learning and get kind of adapted to the community more quickly.
Thanks, Jessica. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So hi, everybody. I'm Stephanie. I graduated in 2021, so just last year from Cornell Biomedical Engineering, and I also concentrated in MCSE. Currently, I'm at the NIH in their post-baccalaureate program. So that's just a 1 or 2 year program for anyone interested in getting additional research experience after undergrad. And then I'll be here for 2 years, but I'm starting to apply to MD PhD programs for this coming cycle. So that's kind of my next steps. I would say my advice, I honestly feel like Jonathan and Jessica both gave like the 2 main pieces of advice I would give. Like, I think BME becomes really tight knit just because you spend like so much time with the people in your major. So like definitely be open to like making friends within BME and like getting a good group of people who you can like work with. And obviously you don't always get to pick your groups, but like it's definitely really helpful to have like homework buddies, and then also to keep an open mind, because when the reason I chose BME was pretty much just that in high school, I loved biology and I loved physics, and I wanted to apply those 2 things to do something new and solve a problem. And I thought, oh, biomedical engineering kind of ticks all those boxes. So I came in like just knowing that, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I didn't go like pre-med and realized that I wanted to do research until like maybe middle of college, like late my sophomore year. So yeah, I think like it's definitely a winding road and you have to just let it take it where it takes you. But I'm, very happy with where it's taken me, and I cannot say enough good things about Cornell BME.
Thanks, Stephanie. Caroline, you're up.
Hi, I'm Caroline. I'm studying imaging and instrumentation like Jessica. I'm a junior here at Cornell. I went into BME due to its intersectionality. I'm really passionate about neuroscience. There's not really a neuroscience major on campus, but it's being pushed by the new imaging techniques. So it's recommended by a lot of different neuroscientists that BME is a good way to pursue that. And my biggest piece of advice would be to don't worry about asking for help. When you get to know your professors, they have so much to offer and so many pieces of advice. So reaching out to anyone and everyone's always a good idea.
Thank you. So other questions that folks have for any of us, for the faculty, the staff, the students? I should also take just a minute to introduce Tony Roach, our Director of Administration. He is newer than I am. I am the undergraduate coordinator. I started 6 months ago, and Tony's been here for a few weeks. But I will just say, from being a new person to this department, that it's an incredibly warm, welcoming family. And I have just enjoyed beyond words working with everyone here in the department, students, faculty, staff, everyone. So feel free to just bring up any questions you have for any of us. You can also type them into the chat. I am going to have send out the full recording of this open house, especially for people who joined a little bit late due to our technological snafu here. So feel free to ask questions now.
Rahul, you had a question earlier when Johnson spoke. Do you still have that question?
Yeah, so he did ask part of what I was going to ask regarding research opportunities for freshmen. And I was just wondering specifically, like, how would I apply for that? Like, and could I, like, not like kind of narrow in on any interests like I have, any specific interests that I have, and proceed from there.
Stephanie, do you want to talk about how you ended up in the lab?
Yeah, absolutely. So I entered and I didn't know much more than that I liked biology and physics, but I have kind of a long family history of cancer. So I thought, oh, maybe cancer research is something that I could get into. So I kind of just went on the BME website and I searched for faculty involved with cancer research. And I just clicked through their profiles and their research summaries, like one by one. And then I narrowed down to a couple who I thought were the most interesting. And then from there, I tried to read, like, again, as a freshman, it's a little challenging to read the full academic paper, but I tried my best to get through like one for each lab that I was really interested in, which I think was about 3. And then I ended up emailing those 3 professors and I said, oh, hey, I'm like really interested in this work. I really am eager to do research. And I talked a little bit about what I had learned from their publications. And then I just kind of went from there. I think something that's important when you're reaching out to professors is not to be afraid to follow up, because a lot of professors will get hundreds of emails from eager undergraduate students who want to get involved in research. And if you're just one email in this sea of undergrads who want research, they're not going to find you. But if you email, don't hear back, then wait a week, email again, like if you're persistent, you're a lot more likely to get that position, because then you're showing you have vested interest. So it's really just a matter of thinking of a general topic that you're potentially engaged in, trying to learn more about that topic, and then seeing which faculty match those interests and then sticking to it.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, because I just like you had a family history of cancer. There are a couple of family members who I have who are visually impaired, and that's why throughout high school I've been doing research on that. Like, for example, like I designed a new like e-commerce website to help with visually impaired navigating, or I've found prevention methods of various blindness. So I've also gone through that throughout high school, and I want to continue that at Cornell as well. So that's something I really wanted to do.
Yeah, well, I think you're definitely on the right track. And I mean, you're already doing better than me, because I didn't have any research in high school. So yeah, I think you'll be all set. And just if that aligns with your interest, that's great. And just roll with it.
For sure. Yep, I'll continue on with that.
So I saw that Joshua had a question in the chat, and I just wanted to speak to that a bit. So one thing that I actually love about BME in particular is that it is so easy to get so involved in an array of different things on campus. And I think the best way to kind of speak to that is to tell you how I personally have. So for example, I'm a BME major and a CS minor, and I fell in love with CS as I took it in the general engineering distribution course my freshman year. I had never coded before, but realized that that was something I wanted to study alongside BME. And it has been a lot of work, of course, 2 engineering areas, but it has been extremely doable and something that I've loved, being able to kind of combine my interests in more of the computational side and the medical side. In terms of clubs, we have a huge array of clubs that are medically related, non-medically related. We have all of our project teams. I'm personally on the project team. It has been one of the best experiences of my entire college career. You get to apply those textbook skills in a fully development focused environment, and that is open to everyone. That is something you could get involved with your fall semester of your freshman year. And that's how I did it. And it has been really great and is definitely easy to balance if you feel that that is something that you can handle with your workload. And just to touch on everything, double minoring too, you could definitely do that. It's really just a matter of kind of planning out your schedule and seeing what courses are going to fit where. You obviously don't want to run yourself too dry, but I know people who are double minoring and anything can happen if you really want to make it. So definitely a lot of flexibility.
On a similar vein to that, although Jessica and I have very similar like major coursework, I have a minor in psychology, so we're kind of fitting in two very different things into our major coursework. So I'm in two different neuro labs alongside my major concentration in my minor as well. So there is big flexibility along the like side tasks you can put with your major.
If I can add in, so for the last 3 years, I've been with the Navy RTC unit here. I was still on active duty, and now I've retired and part of BME team. I had 2 students that are part of were part of Navy RTC program, and they probably contributed 30 or 40 extra hours a week on top of all their normal courseware to the RTC program, and they did great. One of them was the commanding officer of the battalion. One of them was on kind of just missed the cutoff for the Olympic ice hockey team, women's ice hockey team. So some fantastic students, fantastic going out to be leaders in the Navy and Marine Corps team. And I will say one of the things that kept me interested in wanting to stay here after I retired from the Navy and be part of the Cornell family is the saying, any person, any study. They really take that to heart here. And it's really exciting to see. I first heard that and I kind of was skeptical, but after being here for 3 years, I can tell you they really encourage across the entire campus to be involved where your interests take you. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to say Tony highlights the fact that you can double major and you can double minor and all these things, but there's also lots of non pure academic things to do, right? And so, for example, athletics. There's an enormous range of clubs, and one can also double minor in something, in the humanities. You have to remember, Cornell is a fantastically broad campus with. I always describe it as people that are really excellent at things I never knew you could be excellent in, and I'm on committees with other faculty that are they're just amazing things. And so there's all these opportunities. I always want to take the pastry classes actually in the hotel school, right? I mean, there's a whole bunch of other areas besides engineering you can think about. And if anything, I think sometimes seniors have regrets that they don't do that earlier in their Cornell career, that you focus very much on your major and things associated with that. But there's a lot of stuff outside engineering on this campus that's really interesting and really broadens your horizons and your experiences. Jonathan, you haven't said much. Anything you want to add on this point?
Yeah, I was just going to add that I think even within sort of the classes that you have to take for BME, you do have the space to take some of the fun classes. So like a day in my life is that like I go to ice skating in the morning, and then I go to a music class, and then I go to my BME class where we're designing a new biomedical device. So you can do all of those, I'd say, in your time here at Cornell, and still get sort of the education that you'd want. So.
I'll just follow that up with the fact that Cornell is a very broad, diverse place. So that it can feel very big when you get here, but the BME department is small enough that I think you can not just find your niche in here, but also get the support. There seems to be just, you don't have to feel alone. You have your faculty advisor, you have engineering advising, you have the undergraduate coordinator. So anytime you feel overwhelmed by all these choices and all these options, there's always somebody to ask. And I do encourage you, wherever you end up, to reach out to those supports that are within your department, because it can feel very overwhelming, especially in your first semester.
So I can start on that a bit. So as Dr. Adie mentioned a little bit earlier, your freshman year is going to be primarily general engineering courses. And I think that that's actually a really great way to start off because you're not just a BME, you're not bound to anything yet. You are one with the entire engineering community and you guys are getting through that together. Obviously, you are going to have some more BME focused classes like your general bios, and you could take an introductory class to biomedical engineering, which I highly recommend. It's super awesome. But in terms of the academics, something that I love, especially about the general engineering courses, is that the university has 2 hours of free tutoring per week for all of these classes. And I know for me, I came in, I didn't think I needed any of that. I thought I was going to be fine. And I ended up reaching out to those resources and they got me through my freshman year. It was just really great to have another student who had been through it kind of guide me on how I can best prepare, how I can best, as was mentioned in the chat, manage my time. And that was really one of those ways for me that I was able to get the help that I needed. Additionally, the TAs here are honestly amazing because all the TAs were in these classes and they're TAing because they were passionate about what they learned and they wanted to help kids who are going through exactly what they went through at the time. So you're really supported not only through kind of the extra staff that serves as more tutors, academic support, but you also have incredible professors and core staff that are always there to help you as well.
And I think another important resource for freshmen is the academic enrichment workshops, the AEW. So those are kind of like they're extra 2 hour a week classes where you can go, and it's again led by students who have already taken the courses, and they will come up with problems for you to do that will help you practice. They'll lecture a little bit on what was taught about in the class that week. And so then it's kind of just like a supplemental class, but it can be really helpful. I took one of those, I think, for the multivariable calc class you take your freshman year, and it was really helpful. It was just nice to have the extra practice problems and then to get to work through things with my peers in this very formal setting. So those are also a really great option your freshman year.
Let me just add that I think the freshman year here at Cornell, it really gives you a chance to look widely, right? So get a wide range of experiences. Some students come to Cornell thinking, I want to do a certain major, and they go to info sessions from another major, or they go to an intro class from another major, and they realize, actually, I want to do this other major, right? So you will get, and you should, I think, really capitalize on this opportunity to be able to look widely and experience various different things.
Any other questions? Then I'd ask the panelists, is there anything else that you thought of that hasn't been asked, that as these questions have been asked, that has come to mind that was important for you in addition to the advice you already gave? Anything else that we didn't address?
I can go. I think sort of going a step further within the clubs and the time that you have, you can also, become a leader in these clubs and hold these sort of important positions. So I'm currently the vice president of the Biomedical Engineering Society. And so I spend some of my time planning the events and, making sure that people in the BME community feel welcomed and just have a place to, socialize in a non-academic manner. So I think that's really important, that if you sort of like a club, you can get more involved with it.
Also, I know that the question asked about how to make the most out of your freshman year, and this is a little bit more general, not just BME related, but I think it's super important as well. Going to college is a big change. Like it really is a huge adjustment. You're kind of thrown into this pool of many people that you don't necessarily know, but at the same time, it's a really beautiful thing because you have the opportunity to learn so much so quickly and to meet incredible people who are so passionate about what they do in their respective area. And my advice, just in terms of making the most out of your freshman year, is just like throw yourself into it all. Like, don't hold back. Don't have reservations about new people taking a class that seems a little hard. Worst case scenario, you drop it, you take it later in your projection of college. Like, you have so many opportunities as a freshman just to learn socially, academically, in every facet of your life, basically. So just let yourself kind of embrace that and enjoy that. That would be what I wish I could have told my freshman year self.
That's good.
Carolyn,
Funny that you
anything to
said
add?
that because we have a panel of students, grad students and seniors who come to speak to the seminar class, and they all say the same thing, that they wish that they could tell their younger self to not just focus in on all of the work all the time. You have to really broaden your experience here and take advantage of things that are not necessarily academic, but are going to enrich your life as well. So thank you for saying that.
Then I think one thing we haven't touched on, are any of you like potentially interested in pre-med? Any of the incoming freshmen? If not, that's okay, but I think it is possible to do pre-med and BME. It definitely takes a little bit of wrangling in your schedule to squeeze it in, but especially like the earlier you know, the easier it is to fit in. And there's a lot of overlap because like it's a lot of biology, physiology, chemistry, and a lot of that is already required for BME. Okay, great, Joshua, you're interested in it. So I'm here to tell you it's definitely possible. So you can definitely go in like thinking, yes, I can be pre-med. And if you already know, that's more than I knew when I started. So you can go in and start to plan that into your curriculum and your long-term schedule early. So yeah, I think that will be helpful. And then another thing you can do is you can get involved with like different volunteering opportunities. I volunteered through PCAT, which is person-centered advocacy training. And that's actually how I originally met Sharon. And that allowed me to volunteer at Cayuga Medical Center. And so I got a lot of really good like, hands-on experience with patients there. And then like kind of moving out now that I'm graduated, my like post-bac is actually with a surgeon. So that's also like, I think pre-med at Cornell set me up very well to get that position. And it's been like really interesting now to like, observe surgeries and then to help with research on the back end after the surgery. And so Cornell set me up very well to do that. And then I feel really good like going into my application cycle that I have all the tools I need thanks to like what Cornell pre-med and BME gave me.
Carolyn, any last words of advice?
I feel like people have covered a lot of it. Something else I would say, kind of opposite of what people said, is also don't be afraid to say no. I feel like freshman year, everyone joins a million bajillion clubs, and it's very empowering to find the ones you like and the ones you want to dedicate your time to, and the things that you're truly passionate about. I feel like high school, there tends to be some stuff about resume building and all of that, but in college, it's really refreshing to find what you're actually passionate about.
And one other thing that I'm going to add is the people. Like you're surrounded by these amazing people, you know, so you've heard from some of what our, you know, current and former students have done, but I myself from, you know, I think it's part of the college experience, but you know, I'm this weekend in New York City and I'm having dinner with someone I met freshman year. And so, you know, this throwing yourself in a freshman year, throwing yourself in the major, the people are a really big part of the experience. And you've heard people do these are interesting people that you get to be around. And that's a really great part of the experience. And one of the biggest things you take away from your undergraduate experience as well. Sorry. Any last questions, Sharon? Anything you wanted to add to this? It's your show, but I just.
That's okay. It looks like we got one more question. How much space do students have in their schedule to take classes not related to their major? Does somebody want to?
You're required to take one liberal studies per semester. So it's automatically, you're forced to take something that's not in your major, actually, although there's some restrictions on it, but that guarantees some amount of breadth, I think, as a starting point.
Yeah, I was just gonna say there's plenty of other time to like do minors and stuff outside, like mine's in psychology, which is basically completely outside of engineering in total. There are also elective courses that are pretty flexible.
Sharon, did you want to take the one about studying abroad?
Sure.
Yeah.
So study abroad is possible, and it is recommended to do in the spring of your junior year. Jonathan actually did a co-op. So maybe, Jonathan, do you want to speak a little bit about doing a semester outside of Cornell?
I actually didn't do a co-op,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but I do know one of my friends did a co-op. He did a co-op with Johnson & Johnson and sort of their vaccine development manufacturing. So he did that his last fall, so his senior fall. And he said that he loved it. He had nothing but good things to say. And he was like just excited that sort of the curriculum allowed him to do that. And then he can come back and still, finish his education.
Yeah. And I think it's actually a wonderful idea to either study abroad or do a co-op, to take that, to have that experience integrated into your Cornell experience is just really wonderful. It does require some planning. And so that's something to really think about, and to talk to me or to talk to your faculty advisor if it's something that you would like to do, because it does require some planning and some creative scheduling sometimes. And then you do get credits for your study abroad experience. And most students, what they end up doing for study abroad in particular, are taking liberal arts courses and what we call advisor approved electives when they're doing their study abroad experience. So it's very hard to translate BME courses from a foreign university back to this department. So they kind of take that opportunity to catch up on liberal arts and get their advisor approved electives done. And then those credits.
I will just add that international experiences are a priority for the university right now. And so the College of Engineering as a whole is looking at this. And they're trying to find places. So there are English speaking places, Australia, Steve being one of them, right? So University of New South Wales, for example, has engineering and one can go there. And I've known mechanical engineering students have done that. So I assume that biomedical engineering would work as well. And then the UK, the College of Engineering, so we're looking at Imperial College as a place of for doing partnership. And there's also a university in Spain that has a lot of English students. So they're trying to set up some centers that are sort of a guaranteed fit for certain topics as the whole College of Engineering is doing this. So I think those opportunities are only going to increase over time as some of those partnerships are developed more specifically, because there's some intentional attention being put on it at the moment, in fact.
Yeah, and I think part of that push is these partnering universities can list courses at the partner university as, courses that students at their own university can take and are accepted at both places.
Yeah, so I think study abroad is possible. It's increasing because within engineering in general, and it's usually done in the junior year. But again, as you heard, it can be moved around a little bit as well, usually junior spring if possible, but doesn't have to be.
Okay, so if you think of any questions after the fact, please feel free to email me. I'm going to be sending out the recording of this, like I said, for those who missed part of it due to our snafu. Yeah, just reach out if you have any other questions, and we hope that you've gotten all the information that you need and all your questions answered. And we really want to thank the presenters and the students, especially, for taking some time out from your very busy schedules right now to come in and share your wisdom with us. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.